Welcome to episode 1052 of The Sleeper and the Bust. I am Justin Mason, joined as always on Sundays by Jason Collette. Jason, how you doing?
Greetings, one and all. I've missed you.
I know.
You, the host, you, the listener. It's great to be back here connected now that we're both healthy and schedules are aligned and mothers have been celebrated. Here we are.
Yes. We have celebrated the mothers. We have gotten back off the IL. And we are ready to go and talk a bunch of two-start pitchers. We're going to talk a little bit of FAAB too. So it's going to be a jam-packed episode. But let's start with some news and kind of discuss the news that happened this morning. Jesus Luzardo is being put on the IL with a forearm strain. This is a bummer. Those people who were big on Luzardo coming into the year looked like they were being rewarded because he was pitching fairly well, getting a lot of strikeouts and not destroying your ratios. But it sounds like he's going to miss at least a little bit of time, and the dreaded forearm strain always is a worrisome precursor to Tommy John. What are you doing with Luzardo? Are you holding on to him? And then who do you think comes up? There's been a lot of talk about Max Meyer, who's been pitching well in the minor leagues. But they need someone tomorrow.
I'm crying is what I'm doing because I have 3 different leagues where I have Luzardo, so I'm crying. That's what hurts because I was really liked what I saw at the end of last season. Got to pick them up on the cheap in a number of places, and yeah. So tomorrow they're not calling up, but they're putting Cody Poteet in the rotation, which makes sense because he's been their long guy out of the pen. He's pitched really well. Too. I just don't know if he's the 2-start guy this week. As you said, there's been a lot of clamoring for Max Meyer, but Max Meyer just pitched on the 12th. We're recording this on the 15th. There was no way he was available tomorrow or even the next day. So maybe Poteet gets this outing and Max Meyer gets the weekend with Poteet following him in that game. So that's kind of how I see it playing out. I don't know what's left for Max Meyer to do down in AAA. But that's how I see that situation playing out. So, for those folks who are like, I cannot believe it's another pitcher not named Max Meyer being called up on the Marlins. Think of it long term and not just Monday. There was no chance he was coming up Monday. But if you've been sitting on him, holding him, it may now happen. As far as Luzardo goes, I want to see what the forearm strain. I'm trying to think who are some of the other guys that we've had recently that have had that, and we're still sitting around waiting. It's probably a good / bad example. But
Hyunjin Ryu's just came back.
And he looked good yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's a guy that might be, is a good example of guys who can come back and be fine. I just always hate this. Like this is, the potential that they're going to miss the rest of the season is always huge. I wasn't in on Luzardo this year.
I'm not ready to cut loose. Yeah, not ready to cut him loose yet, but it's like it's going to be a week to week decision.
Yeah, I think you hold on to him for right now in most formats. If you're playing in a format without an IL, it's really, really difficult to roster those guys, especially if there's kind of an open-ended return date. I mean, Poteet, I don't know that I want to stream him necessarily. It's not a bad matchup against Washington, but I think I would take if you're in a league where you can pick up minor league players, so not NFBC, are you stashing Meyer right now?
Yeah, if he wasn't already. I doubt he wasn't out there. I would push back on the Nationals matchup because they actually do put up some runs. They also give up a bunch. But, I don't want Poteet because, honestly, I don't see him going deep enough into the game for a win. He probably pitches 3 or 4 innings tops. May get the strikeouts, but even though Poteet is getting that start, even if he gets 2 starts this week, I still don't want Poteet. Neither matchup's great for him. So I'm out on him this week, but if I have the opportunity to, if Max Meyer is available, sure. I'll go ahead and take that because it's got to be just a matter of, you would have to think it's just a matter of days before they make that call.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he like I said, there's not much left to prove for him in the minor leagues. It's time to get him up, and usually they're a pretty aggressive organization in terms of bringing guys up. We saw it with Sixto Sanchez, we've seen the other guys they're willing to kind of bring those guys up and let them, learn under fire in the majors. So I think now's the time to pick up Meyer and stash him if he is available in your league. Michael Pineda broke his finger. He's going to be out for an extended period of time. This makes him droppable in most formats, right?
Oh, yeah, even AL. I mean, honestly, he was, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, he was the worst supported starter by run support in baseball. Tigers have had massive trouble scoring runs. Sorry, Paul. And Pineda was getting the worst run support in the baseball. And somehow he still had a win out of 5 starts, but he's going to be out a while in this one. So drop and maybe come back later. And hope he doesn't gain another 30 pounds while on the IL, because that boy is looking large these days. There was a matchup the other day. I was watching a game. Was it Pineda versus Vogelbach? And I was like, oh my God, this is like 2 nose tackles up there. They were large. Pineda has really, really added on some size this year.
Yeah, I was surprised. I watched his first start of the year, and I was like, whoa, that's not the shape I was expecting necessarily, but who am I to judge?
Jumbo Diaz making a comeback. Wait, whoops, wrong guy.
Right. Manny Margot is hitting the IL with a hamstring strain. I think this was kind of expected after getting injured. Are you holding on to Margot, who showed some flashes this year of being a really interesting, useful player?
Yeah, he's played so well too. And what they've tried to do is they've tried to, they had him DHing for a couple of days. He even played yesterday and singled, but he just has not been able to run. So he'll get on base. They've pinch ran for him. So it's like he can still hit and singles, but he couldn't play in the field. And eventually it's like, okay, now you're going to go hit the 10-day IL. And so I haven't looked at their schedule to see if next week's a 5-day week, and they were just kind of waiting for this for an opportunity, because they've been on this run where they've had no day off. They've had 1 day off. They just came back off a 10-day road trip. Now they've got Toronto to finish out this weekend, and they've got Detroit coming in next. Then they have, then they go on the road. I believe they're going to Yankee Stadium this coming weekend. So I think they were trying to play around with that, but it was clear that all he could do was hit, and it's just really tough to carry somebody. So they called up Ralph Garza Jr., for today, from now. I don't know what that'll mean for next steps. I think in the immediate future, unfortunately, I guess it's more playing time for Brett Phillips, but man, he's striking out a ton. And he gets Alek Manoah today, which should be fun. And the deadly slider that just ate them up last year. So we'll see how all that goes. But in the short term, I think that's where the playing time is going to go, for better or for worse. And but yeah, I got to keep Margot, because he's hit well. He's stealing bases, getting on base, doing everything that we've always hoped he would do. Because let's not forget, and I made this point on the Sirius XM show yesterday, that at one point he was a top 50 overall prospect back when that would have put him in the Phillies organization before they traded him to San Diego, and I forgot the piece they got in that, but he was a top 50 prospect, and so the pedigree had always been there. But then the opportunities, he hadn't made the most of his opportunities, and now you got a 2-year deal just before the start of this season, and he's rewarding the club for the good play. So I'm hoping it's just 10 days, because again, they were able to avoid the deal. He didn't do anything yesterday in watching the game to exacerbate the issue. It was just eventually they were like, okay, we've got to just get him off his legs completely for this thing to heal in time.
He was actually part of the Red Sox organization. He was traded in the Kimbrel deal. But yeah, he was a top 30 prospect at one point, especially in fantasy because of stolen base potential. I mean, I've always been a Manny Margot guy. I'm holding on to him and hoping. They have a 6-game week with they have, let's see, it looks like Detroit and then at Baltimore. But they also have 2 days off in the next 8 days. So that's, hopefully he can make it back after that. So definitely would try to hold on to him if you can, especially because that's on base potential. A guy that I don't think you need to hold on to if you were even rostering him at all. Mauricio Dubon, my Giants trade him to the Astros for kind of I think a 27-year-old catcher who's hitting 215 at AAA. So an interesting deal that the Giants got rid of Dubon. They also brought in Stuart Fairchild in a different trade, I believe, with Seattle. Any interest in Dubon now that he is in Houston?
No, I mean, the only immediate interest is because Jeremy Payne is a little dinged up. Jose Altuve's back's a little dinged up. They did send down Nico Goodrum to make move for Dubon on the roster. It gives them an experienced pinch hitter off the bench, only in the deepest of formats. And if one of those aforementioned guys got hurt, would I have any interest? But this is bench depth for a real baseball club and not something has any fantasy relevance unless some other dominoes fall out of the way.
Yeah, and Dubon was out of options. Tommy La Stella is working his way back. The Giants are starting to get healthy. And so I think this move probably would have happened at the start of the season had they been healthy to start the year, but they weren't. They didn't have guys like Longoria and Wade and La Stella. But now that these guys are all coming back, they had to make room. So I don't think this has really any impact in terms of like even AL only. I don't think Dubon really figures much into it. I think this is just infield depth for right now. Blake Snell is slated to return on Wednesday. Are you excited? Are you getting him back in your lineups?
I have him anywhere. I did not, but I know a lot of people did, and a lot of people were heavily invested. I would say one thing too, it's not going to happen right out of the gate, but one thing to keep in mind. And I know Bob Melvin's away from the team right now, recovering from surgery, but I think we talked about this over the winter where Bob Melvin loves his starting pitchers and loves to let his starting pitchers work deep in the games. And that's been something Snell has wanted to do, but the stats have said you shouldn't. But now he's going to be with a manager or at least a coaching staff who has the philosophy of letting their starting pitchers run. San Diego leads the league in starting pitchers that have outings of 100 plus pitches. Meanwhile, Atlanta and Minnesota have 0. They have yet to do that. But San Diego's there, but Oakland was there. I think Oakland was first or second last year under Melvin. So keep that in mind as we go along with Snell. Because, again, he's always said he wants to work deeper into games, but either his pitch count inefficiency, or you leave him out there and he gets blasted times through the order penalty because it has not been kind to him. That has gotten in the way. So just something to keep in mind with him as he builds up his stamina now that he's 6 weeks behind everybody else, or actually he's not pitching until the middle of the 7th scoring period. So I'm not excited yet, but I want to see how that plays out for him. Obviously, if you're hurting for strikeouts, you want him, and if he's got the opportunity to do that, sure. And hopefully, you've used this past 5 weeks, not this week, but the previous 5 weeks have set enough of a foundation of good ratios to help absorb some of that. Because while we're on that topic, like offensively, the first home run, so we're recording this, Sunday at noon, right? The first home run that gets hit today sets the new high water mark for home runs in a scoring period this week. It was 179 home runs 2 weeks ago, and it took 7,030 plate appearances to get to 179 home runs. We are at 1,000 fewer plate appearances this week, and we have the same amount of home runs. Now, that could be a lot of pitching staffs gotten with the COVID cancellations, with rainouts, with some of the weather, all of those things could have come in mind. But we had got to the same home run total with 1,000 fewer plate appearances. And by the way, the league-wide batting average jumped 17 points week over week. And the strikeout rate went down from, it went down when I looked at it yesterday, it went down from 22.4 to 21.5%. So we're this week seeing some movement in offense. And then even like yesterday, I tweeted that yesterday morning. And then during the day games yesterday, as Joe Sheehan likes to call it looked like Premier League scoring. 1-0, 2-0, 3-1. And then the night games saw a little bit of explosion of offense. But, on the whole, it's been a very down season offensively. But this particular week, we finally have seen a spike in offense. And I don't ask me to find a cause. Did somebody pull a lever and something changed? Maybe. It's not just. I even went back and looked over at some of the other similar scoring periods over similar dates. And go check my Twitter feed. You can see some of it from yesterday. But I don't know what's causing it. But this week we're seeing a change. And it just bears watching as we get in the next week. Does it go back down? And then we could say, okay, it was just changing of staffs and disruptions. Or are we finally going to see some offense after 5 weeks of a lot of games?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. I think it's obviously too small of a sample so far to kind of draw any major conclusions from it. The weather is starting to heat up in places. I know it was 87 degrees here in Northern California yesterday.
I was by the fire pit 3 times this week, though. Here it hasn't heated up. It's kind of weird. But now it's finally going to heat up in Charlotte this week. We're going to get into the 90s. But it has been unseasonably cool in the mid-Atlantic, that whole region. That's what's been weird. And it's been super windy, too. Maybe I don't know which way the wind's been blowing, but I noticed over this past week we've had a lot of wind. Honestly, it's felt like March here, and here we are in the middle of May.
Yeah, it had been actually pretty cold and temperate for this kind of time of year out here, but it has decided to take a turn for the hot recently. Back to Blake Snell real quick. He is at Philadelphia for this start.
Ooh.
Are you starting him for that?
That I'm going to pass on, and I'm gonna bring up something that somebody, my friend Glenn, shared with me because it was an insane number. 29% of the runs that Dodgers have given up all season came in the last 3 games against Philly, and those games were in LA. And so, like, LA had been not historic, but like far and above the rest of the league and run prevention. And then the Phillies went out and just laid it on them. And so, yeah, I'm going to skip Snell this week in Philly against a lineup that's got that kind of heat going right now. And let's wait until next week. I'm normally a guy that that benches a guy first start back anyhow. I know we mentioned Ryu. Ryu just came off the IL yesterday, looked good in his outing against Tampa Bay. So that was the exception, but I'm trying to think of another guy recently that came off of like, I'm putting him in and he got blasted. I'm like, why did I break my own rule? I typically let that guy, that first start, let somebody up, let it go, and then jump back in afterwards.
Yeah, I've got Snell in a few spots, and I think I'm going to be. At first, I was like, oh, sweet, I'm glad he's back. I need pitching, especially in one of those leagues, but. Against Philadelphia, no thanks. Not with the way they're swinging the bat. So, last piece of news: Steven Strasburg throws a 2-inning sim game. He was kind of sitting at 92 miles an hour. Do we care?
No, he's good in sim leagues. If you're in a sim league, you can turn off injury and like play with and have fun with it. But no, I'm done. And I know unfortunately the Nationals aren't because they still owe him $160-something million over the next few years. And so it's got to happen. No, sorry. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll eat it. I'll take the huge L on there. But right now the huge L is on the Nationals.
I'd rather be wrong and not have him on my team than have him on my team and be wrong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm with you until we see him back and throwing a fair amount of healthy innings. There's no chance. I'm not going to be dealing with it at all. All right, let's move into some FAAB. It's not a big FAAB weekend. There are a couple guys that were available in some leagues last week that we'll talk about that maybe weren't picked up yet, but that should be. But first, let's talk about the Rays bullpen. Me and Paul talked about this a little bit, and I was like, I'm going to talk to Jason on Sunday. What do you make of this bullpen? Kittredge, I don't know if he looks right now. I know Jason Adam got a save the other day. Who would you be banking on, or is there a person even to bank on in this Rays bullpen?
Yeah, so let's see. I'm going through our group text the other night, and what did I send you guys?
This is why it came up.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I was trying to look at it. I was like, line up your options behind Kittredge. He doesn't look right. He gave up the home run to Taylor Ward. Like, who hasn't done that, right? But he gave up the home run to Ward, and then he gave up the other home run in Seattle. I forgot the guy hit Seattle. He's given up 2 home runs with it. But then he comes in on Friday night with first and second and 1 out. out against Vlad into a double play to end a rally, and the Rays go on to win the game. So he's able to do that. So it's been hitting it. The thing about him, about Kittredge that I've noticed is he's not as whiffy with a slider right now. And that's been his recipe for success is pound the strike zone, throw nothing straight, and get guys to expand the zone. But he has not been as whiffy with his slider. I don't have his whiff rates by week or anything handy, but eye test. This is what's been happening. I know that Brooks Raley came in and got two saves on the road trip, but understand Brooks Raley almost forgot he was on the team because his usage had been so low coming into that. And even the writers at one point were like, hey, what's up with Brooks? Brooks was here, to quote Shawshank. And then it's like he hadn't been around. And then he comes in, he gets 2 saves in 4 days after that. And then he comes in and then couldn't get anybody out, which is why Kittredge had to come into the game on Friday night because Raley failed to retire a hitter. And so when you look on this, and then Adam finished off that game on Friday night after Kittredge had done his work, but Kittredge only threw like 6 pitches to get to do what he did. But that's been the other point about it too. And they've mentioned on the broadcast that he typically does not. He's had some issues when he's worked back-to-back innings. So when he's had a chance down, coming back out, he hasn't done as well. And so perhaps that was the why he did not come back out for the 9th. So Jason Adam picking up the save makes him the 4th different pitcher to get a save between Ryan Thompson, who just doesn't belong in the 9th inning, Raley, Kittredge, and Adam. But they're not even first. We'll talk about that. They're not even the team with the most relievers with 1 save. So I'm still sticking with Kittredge, but I'm not like all in, whole hog, full believer in it because he's shown some hiccups here of late. And so if I can get, like I have Adam in a couple leagues, and we've talked about him on this podcast early on, how the team really liked his stuff when they made the trade for him. And so I like what I see there, but Raley would still have matchups. Like if I fast forward to this coming weekend, I mentioned the Rays are in Yankee Stadium. I could see Brooks Raley coming in for the save if Anthony Rizzo was at the plate. But if it's Judge and Stanton, it could be Adam if Kittredge has already been utilized in that kind of case. So that's how I see things moving forward.
Yeah, this is why I try to stay away from the Rays bullpen. It makes my head hurt.
And there was no discount. And there was no discount on Kittredge coming into this season. People were like, "He's going to be the guy." So it's not like you were, missing out on anything because there was no discount coming with him coming into the year.
Yeah, no, he was still full priced, even though we know what the Rays like to do, right? The Rays like to go with the most effective reliever in any particular spot. Maybe one guy does lead their bullpen, but it's not a 30 save guy. It's maybe a 20 save guy. I'm not paying up for that. And
I told you this off air. Here we are 6 weeks into the season, and the only team who has 1 reliever with all of their saves is the Washington Nationals and Tanner Rainey. Every other team, even Cleveland, has 2 guys with saves. So it's like the league is sharing these saves around. I'm looking at there are 22 of the 30 teams in the league have at least 3 relievers with saves this year. Mm-hmm. Now, some of them may be the garbage saves, up 3 runs type of thing, but saves have been widely distributed this year.
Yeah. Next bullpen situation that I wanted to bring up, it may be a moot point now because Gregory Soto came in, had a nice clean outing, got the save last night. He's not looked great necessarily at times to start the season, and Michael Fulmer had been really, really great, and I think just gave up his first runs of the season. Any interest in kind of maybe taking a spec shot on Fulmer in case Soto's it up?
Yeah, it's Jekyll and Hyde with Soto, and I have Fulmer in 2 leagues, and I also have Soto in 2 leagues, and only one of them do I have them both. So with Soto, and I watched the game on Friday night, it was he comes in and hits the first 2 batters of the appearance, and what they were Yank sliders, and so the thing is he could not locate his slider, and so nobody was swinging at it. And then his fastball was all over the place. So literally this would have been, I forgot who they were playing, but they basically just sat there like, I'm not even swinging, not even going to swing. And then they brought him out and they brought Will Vest in, and Vest got the save. And so, but there's been previous outings like this. If you've had Soto all year, you've seen where like he can look absolute trash, and then the next game come out and get the job done. That said, getting the job done the other night still required 21 pitches. So he threw 18 on Friday night, then he bounced back with 21 last night, and he had 27 on Wednesday. So, if there's a save opportunity today as you're listening to this, it's not going to be Soto. I don't see how they pull him in for this. Fulmer has not pitched the last 2 games, so it will likely be Fulmer for that case. But just because you see something happen today doesn't mean, okay, Soto's out of the job. Understand, he has done some heavy lifting 3 of the past 4 days, good or bad. So I continue to hedge my bets, and that's why I've carried Fulmer on the bench and some of that just in case. I went into those drafts looking for the Detroit saves, and so in one league I got both guys, and I haven't cut either. But yes, Soto is definitely one of those guys that you just don't watch. You have him on your team, you're like, just please get the save, just don't watch it, because if you watch it, you're like, I'm out, I'm cutting him right now.
This is why I can't draft him. It's because I watch the games and I go, oh no, this is not.
Well, at least he doesn't pitch for your favorite team. I mean, could you imagine that hell?
Oh man, just the hell of being a Tigers fan, just in general, is. I mean, they're 11-23 right now. They're the worst team in the AL Central, which is the worst division in baseball.
Setting themselves up for that Ben Joyce 1-1 draft pick, right?
There you go. Let's talk about the one you kind of alluded to that's used the most amount of relief pitchers to get a save this year. That is the Boston Red Sox. So if you think the Tigers are bad, oh man, the Red Sox, what are they doing right now? They're 13-20. They are 11 games out this early in the season. I am highly invested at this point in Hansel Robles, but I was debating dropping those shares because it's been about 3 weeks since he got his last save. What are you doing in that Boston bullpen?
Yeah, so they lead the league. They have 6 different pitchers with saves. 6: Barnes, Diekman, Robles, Schreiber, Strom, and Whitlock. Out of those 6, Schreiber, that's a one and done. Matt Barnes looks like trash. I mean, we just trashed Greg Soto. Matt Barnes is like a half a step above him, so out. Diekman, people have already had him, but I continue to see Strom on the free agent pile, and Strom has looked good when I've seen him pitch. It wasn't too long ago we were trying to wish cast him into the closer role in San Diego, But Diekman and Strom's a little weird with both lefties, but Strom actually throws strikes on a consistent basis, and Diekman struggles to do that. I have Robles in AL Tout, and I believe one other league, and I've yet to let him go because he still pitches well. But like you said, it's a matter of opportunity. But we just 5 minutes ago we're talking about how Brooks Raley had kind of disappeared, then came back in and got 2 saves in 4 days because the skills were there. It's just Boston's not good. I mean, we've got 3 teams with their 10+ games out of first. Cincinnati, we expected. Washington, maybe. And the Red Sox. Those are your 3 teams that are double digits out of first place. And so he hasn't had that many opportunities because the team hasn't afforded him that many opportunities. And they have, 11 wins and 6 different saves. So I would, if you can get Strom as like a backup bid, like you're trying to target somebody else, you put Strom in for $1, you get Strom for $1. The skills are there, and let's see how the situation plays out. But it's obviously being distributed all over the place. But Strom to me is an intriguing ad this week.
Yeah, I've always liked Strom quite a bit. I think I'm holding on to Robles for 1 more week. I'm going to give it 1 more week. I had a bunch of bids to drop him. I'm literally, as we're talking, trying to switch it to a different player in every
Glad
league.
I could talk you out of it.
I'm just – I don't think there's any clarity on who the closer is, but Robles is the guy who's done it before, and that isn't awful in the way that Matt Barnes is just awful. I think they want it to be Matt Barnes for some reason. But that's clearly not working well.
And the issue with Robles is he just hasn't had the strikeouts. I mean, you look at his last; he's pitched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games over the past 2 weeks, and he has 1 strikeout, and he has 4 earned runs. So he's had some hiccups within it. I would say he looked better early on. So I don't know. I could see recency bias coming into play. It's like, okay, if you're not striking anybody out, what are you doing for me? But again, the fact that this team has 6 different guys doing saves right now, it's really tough to let them go. Now, if this was one of these teams that had 3, and I think I mentioned earlier, 22 of the 30 teams in baseball have 3+ saves. If this was one of those teams like Atlanta or Arizona, I'd be like, okay, I'll let that one go. But the fact that saves are everywhere in this, if I'm in an AL only format, it's tough to drop. If I'm in any type of mixed format, I'm not arguing. I'm not going to defend keeping Robles. No need to.
What? All right. So this is my dilemma. I'll let you help me make the decision. Would you rather have Hunts Robles or Chris Stratton?
Oh, yuck. Push. I mean, push.
It feels like Stratton's. I mean, there was talk that they were going to share the role in Pittsburgh. It feels like Stratton is blowing this opportunity. So,
well, it doesn't help that Pittsburgh has, they have 9 wins on the season. 8 of the relievers, their starting rotation has 1 win. I think Bryse Wilson has it. Or no, they got 2. They had a second one last night. Thompson got 1. So, they're there. But the skills, they're sharing the role, but they haven't had this, again, they haven't had a lot of opportunities. So,
well, Bednar got 2 saves this week, and Stratton pitched in both of those games. So, I think that
they got to set Bednar up for trades. Got to get him ready.
All right, let's move on and talk about George Kirby, who in some leagues he was already available to be picked up. In other leagues he was not picked up or not available to be picked up. He looked really good in the first start. Where are you at on Kirby? How aggressive would you be in FAAB this week?
I mean, he looked fantastic, but the thing is, it's tough for me to get aggressive with him. Because there has to be some type of restrictor played on him. Has to be. He pitched 23 innings in professional baseball in 2019, did not pitch in organized baseball in 2020, and then in 2021 threw 68 innings. And he's already halfway there this year between AAA. I cannot imagine a 24-year-old Seattle's going to go out there and say, go. I mean, just look at it last year. Look how they kind of held Logan Gilbert back as they did something. Logan Gilbert, I think, got to 115, 120 innings, but there's going to be some type of restrictor played. So if you can, get Kirby, enjoy Kirby, but understand that you've got to start planning ahead to replace Kirby at some point. That's going to be the case. The other piece of it is, notice he's had 2 starts and no wins. Seattle does not do a good job of offering run support to their starting pitchers. They're one of the lower teams in the league in doing that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here. But when I look at the team run support for starting pitcher, they are below league average, slightly 3.9 runs a game for their starting pitchers. The league average is 4, so they're slightly below that. But he's not working too deeply in the games. 2 starts, 0 wins, and they've let him go. I watched, obviously, saw the entirety of the Tampa Bay game, and it was very filthy. He went 4 innings against the Mets, tougher matchup, and only had the 1 strikeout against the Mets yesterday within that, but really took advantage of the Rays who go hunting for fastballs, and he just threw it by him and then threw the other pitches as they were trying to hunt for fastballs. So I can't get too aggressive knowing that I may only get another 60 innings with him the rest of the year. Confidently get 60 innings. I'll let somebody else spend the money there.
You're kind of talking me out of it because I was going to be pretty aggressive coming in. I think I'm still going to be pretty aggressive. I mean, I think he could be a real difference maker. I do worry about how many innings in total he gets, but this is a Seattle team that wants to try to compete, and they need help in that rotation. And he is a guy that I really love the command and control. I love the stuff.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, so I think if he can get the innings, I think he's a real difference maker. I'm leaning towards putting down 20% of my remaining FAAB in some leagues, and I'm okay with that gamble because I do, like I said, I think I said this on Tuesday. I think he could legitimately be an AL Rookie of the Year candidate if he gets enough innings to kind of qualify for that. So
yeah, like I said, I just don't. If you look at what we say, 67 innings last year, even if they doubled that puts him at 134, and that would be an aggressive handling of a guy. So I'm thinking his final inning, put a pin in this. Let's come back to it at the end of the season. His final innings total will be under 120.
Mariners,
even if he stays healthy all year, it'll be under 120.
Mariners are already 7 games back in the division, which is really competitive between the Angels and the Astros. If they want to compete, they got to make a move now. So I don't think this is the year for them, to be honest. I think next year is
last year. Well, let's not forget, last year was fueled so heavily on the 1-run game. How they were like they overperformed what anybody should do in a 1-run game, and this year's come back to bite them. They have not done as well, and this is who they are. Just last year it worked out in their favor, but right now the 1-run games are not doing them any favors.
All right, I think I'm going to lower my bids a little bit. I'm not gonna overspend, but I'm definitely going to be aggressive.
You should bid people should bid anyhow. Again, Jeff Erickson talks a lot about this. Bid so just in case nobody else does. It's like you're at least trying to enforce a price. So if you put, let's say you put an $85 bid and somebody else did $87. Okay, that's money off the table that you helped. You did, but if everybody else assumes, somebody else would go nuts, and then nobody does, then somebody gets a nice bargain. So it's like if you get something great, but you should at least encourage some activity.
Yeah, I agree. Next guy we're going to talk about is Alek Thomas. He made his major league debut. He's playing regularly in Arizona. There's power, there's speed, and there is a decent hit tool there. How aggressive would you be on Alek Thomas? The frustrating thing about him is today he's in the lineup and he's batting 9th.
He's been in the lineup every day he's been up. That's the encouraging thing. Every single day he's been up. And so I would be excited because it's a weird team with Arizona. It's kind of an all or nothing offense where they have, they've got their home runs. It's kind of a weird offense overall. The fact that Thomas has been in the lineup every single day since his promotion is a good thing. Hit a 9th, not a good thing. But I haven't looked at the matchup today to see why they would do that. I know they've been riding a lot of Jordan Luplow high, depending on lefties. They want Luplow to get up there, and they've had a few lefties recently. And it's worked out. There was one day they even played Luplow up there high in the lineup. And people are like, why is he doing that against the righty? He went out there and hit 2 home runs. So these things can happen. So I haven't seen what's today's matchup.
Today I believe they're versus the Cubs. Yes, they're home versus the Cubs.
Okay, and we have a Justin Steele. So that would explain it. Alek Thomas lefty hitting 9th, and Jordan Luplow's hitting 2nd. Cooper Hummel. This is what they've been doing. So with against lefties, Hummel and Luplow, they've been trying to get them high in the lineup, especially Luplow. And Thomas, if he's not hitting 1st or 2nd, is going to hit 9th. So I'd be more aggressive. Honestly, I'd be more aggressive with him than I would be with Kirby.
Yeah, I'm going to be aggressive here as well. This is a top 25, top 30 prospect, depending on who you're asking. I think he has a pretty safe floor, and I don't see any reason why Arizona, if they're calling him up at this point, unless he really, really struggles, like Kelnick kind of struggles. I don't see him going back down even when other guys get healthy. So I think he's up to stay. I think he's worth getting aggressive with triple-digit bids in your leagues with $1,000 FAABs.
And I would say this, as folks are looking at minor league stats, I don't have all of the answers for this, but understand that the AAA may be using the same baseball, and for those watching the video, the same baseball as the major leaguers, but the conditions of those baseballs are different. All 30 parks have humidors, not the case in the minor leagues. Your higher altitude parks do. In the PCL Thursday night, saw Odeo Cruz hit, going to Giancarlo Stanton territory with 121.7 off the bat, and then another 114. But I also saw utility middle infield hit an opposite field home run. And you look at the home run to contact rates in AAA are much higher than what they've been at the major league level. So that's where I think the difference of the humidor versus not humidor in there. But I see it differently in AAA. So when you look at numbers, as you said, Thomas has got the pedigree, has hit everywhere. And the funny thing is his batting average this year in Reno is lower than anywhere else in his career. But he's hit and has gotten on base at every single level he has touched. And again, he's been in the lineup here, and he's hitting second leadoff, as coaches like to tell 9-hole hitters. You're hitting second leadoff for us, setting the table for the top of our lineup, right? So, it's a little bit. It's just good that they're bringing him up. We don't see a lot of organizations calling up 22-year-olds to come up and do this. We saw Tampa Bay bring up Lowe and then say, go down. So I would assume Thomas is up as long as his bat shows he can handle it. And throughout his career, his bat has handled it.
Yep. All right, let's move it right along and talk about some 2-start pitchers. Kyle Bradish, who was a big pickup last week and was very, very good in his start, got 2 starts versus Tampa Bay, home versus Tampa Bay and home versus the Yankees. The Yankees one's coming first. How excited are you on Kyle Bradish?
So throughout this whole segment, I'm going to talk about looking at something I've been playing with this week and looking at run support for starting pitchers. Because often we look at run support and say, oh, hey, this team supports pitchers. This is good. And I would use the Yankees as an example of this, right? So I would say the Yankees, I mentioned earlier about run support. Seattle's at 3.9, the Yankees are at 3.9. And so that's right about league average, right? But when I look at certain starting pitchers like Garrett Cole gets some of the best run support while he's in the game in baseball. And the metric I used was basically I took the runs scored while that starting pitcher's in the game, the same of the entire rotation, divided it times 100 to get runs scored versus runs scored innings pitched plus. Like Garrett Cole's a 177. And his teammates, Nestor Cortez and Jordan Montgomery, are in the 60s. So, he's getting that much more benefit. So, when you look at run support for your favorite team, you got to go in and look at that pitcher. And it's year-to-year stickiness, I don't know. But, Jordan Montgomery's had 23 no decisions now in his last 37 starts, despite pitching well. Yesterday wasn't a great outing, but he's still, the Yankees have scored no more than 3 runs in his starts in quite some time. And so you have to kind of look at this overall. And so one of the things I did in looking at the 2-start pitchers this week was looking at how their run support is compared to the rest of their team, and then looking at the average runs scored by the teams they're facing. So in Bradish's case, his run support is 193. That's where he is. He's been that much better for a team that gives their starters 3 runs per game. So he's been very fortunate. So it's facing a team that that produces 4.9 runs a game in the Yankees and 4.2 against the Rays. So we're talking about a 1+ run average difference between what Baltimore typically gives their starting pitchers and what their opponents are allowing. So as much as I like Bradish, no thanks this week. I don't see the chance for wins. He may get some strikeouts against lineups, but I don't see, if you're looking for wins this week, I don't see a win in either one of those outings.
Yeah, but if you're streaming Baltimore pitchers for wins, you're probably not doing it right. So I think that they're just not a good enough team. I think if you're streaming him, you're streaming him for strikeouts. I think you can get those. He was very impressive in that last start. It's at home, which it's so weird to me to think of Camden as a pitcher's park. But really that's the way it's playing now that they moved those fences. So I think I would stream Bradish this week. I'm using him in the leagues where I picked him up last week. So
I feel better about the outing against Tampa Bay than I do the Yankees.
The Yankees
Yankee outing could be a big. You could get gombered there pretty hard.
You could. You definitely could. Next guy is Yusei Kikuchi versus Seattle, getting to face his old team, and then versus Cincinnati. This feels like a must do, right? Because he's
absolutely
pitched well, and these are great matchups.
It is, and he looked great last week. I picked him up on last Sunday night's FAAB as $2. I was the only person who bid on him in my RotoWire. I picked him up in preparation for this week because looking at that, okay, he was a 1-start guy, but he's going to be a 2-start guy this week, and these matchups were on the table. So I'm absolutely putting him in. His run support, he's at 77, below average, but his matchups are 3-9 and 4-2, and the team. Toronto actually does not give their starting pitchers a lot of run support at 3.5 runs per game. They just got off the shine with a win yesterday after dropping 5 straight, but they tend to do their damage later in games. So Not sure about the wins, but the matchups could not be better. And Kikuchi looked really good last week, so I'm pretty excited. Of all these 2-start options, I believe he is my favorite one this week.
Yeah, mine as well. I think he's an easy 2-start option. If he is available in FAAB, it's okay to become aggressive to get him because he's gonna, getting Seattle, who has struggled, and then Cincinnati, who's one of the worst teams in baseball right now, is something you got to do.
Except when they're not playing the Pirates. That's like you look at Cincinnati's schedule. It's like when they play the Pirates, they beat up on them for the most part, and then they're like 3-something against the rest of the league. It's kind of crazy. They're going to eventually have to play another team besides Pittsburgh.
Do they though?
We should have that. It should be like soccer. You've been relegated down. Whatever. Yeah. I forget what they call it. You're down there. That's what you're doing. You're playing each other the rest of the season.
Beau Brieske is at Tampa Bay and then at Cleveland. Any interest there?
Hard pass. I mentioned earlier, Detroit is not providing any run support. Their starters are getting 2.1 runs a game. Tampa Bay's 4.2 runs a game for offense. Cleveland's almost 5 per game. Cleveland's doing really good things offensively, and this is despite Frendel Reyes' struggles. Hard pass on Brieske this week.
Yeah, he is currently striking out batters at a 12.6% clip.
Like Cleveland makes a ton of contact.
Yeah.
So I think it's really the Cleveland start driving the no. It's not like Tampa Bay is not good enough for me to offensively for me to say they're avoidable, but it's that Cleveland thing, that second start where I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah, I think he is an easy pass this week. So next guy is Brad Keller versus Chicago and home versus the Twins. It's a good park to pitch in when you're Brad Keller.
It is, but he's still playing for Kansas City. Only the Pirates. Yeah, the run support we mentioned earlier. The Kansas City does not provide a lot of run support for their starting pitchers. And when you look at, I'm not like this isn't. I'm absolutely out on this like I was with some of the others. But when I take a look at it, Kansas City is 25th in the league with 3.3 runs per game for their starters. And then they're facing matchups 3.6 and 3.9. So it's like it's in with the realm of possibility. So it's like I'm not targeting Keller, but if I'm limited on options, I don't mind taking the chance. But just understand Kansas City does a very poor job of generating run support for their starting pitchers.
Yeah, they're not a good team at all.
Whit Merrifield, man, he has lost the ability to hit the fastball this year. The numbers are not good. I saw Corbin Young tweeting something out this morning. You take a look at it. I knew he's doing bad, but you look at that and you're like, wow.
It's hard because there's Keller's was really, really good until this last outing versus Texas. You would have thought that was a pretty safe start.
Remember last year how he opened the season against Texas and they stuck it to him.
Yeah, maybe it's something about Texas that they see him well for some reason, but I think I would roll with this one. Minnesota one can be a little bit scary, but Chicago's lineup's not really that as frightening. But they did just get Andrew Vaughn back. Maybe this is hard.
I saw Vaughn hit 2 home runs on Thursday night when I was there too.
Yeah, I might actually in 10s and 12s. I may actually skip this one. 15s, I think you got to roll with the 2-start like this. So, Jake Odorizzi, our old friend, he is at Boston and then home versus Texas. Where are you at on Odorizzi?
This would be the other favorite of the week. Eggs has been pitching really well. Houston provides. He's getting above average run support in his games. Houston does a really good job of providing run support for the starting pitchers, and both of these matchups are below league average for team offense. If not Kikuchi, Odorizzi would be the other favorite for me. With this good possibility of getting 2 wins and some decent ratios here.
Yeah, completely agree with you here. This is one of my favorite 2-starts of the week. I actually picked him up in a few leagues last week, hoping that he'd line up for a 2-start last week. But if he got pushed like he did, now he's lined up for a 2-start this week. So, this is outside of Kikuchi. This is my favorite one as well. Next guy on the list is Zach. Is it Logue?
Logue.
He is home versus Minnesota and then at the Angels. That's pretty scary matchups for Logue.
It is. I mean, he has so far enjoyed. Oakland doesn't score a lot of runs, but they have given him good run support. But on the whole, Oakland is a very supports their starting pitchers very poorly. 3.2 runs a game. Minnesota's 3.9 runs a game offensively, and the Angels are 4.9. That's a no for me. I'm gonna pass.
I have some bids on him in some 15-team leagues over in NFBC. They're very small bids, but it's hard not to take a guy who just went 7 scoreless and lining up for 2-step, even though it's a tough 2-step. I just have the feeling this one could blow up twice in your face. And so if you're risk averse, if you're trying to be risk averse, or if you're in 10s and 12s, I think you find better options in Logue.
Yes.
My boy Chris Flexen on the road for a 2-step. He is at Toronto and then at Boston. No way we can do this, right?
So with Flexen, let me give you the runs scored in the games that Flexen has pitched. April 11th, they were shut out. April 16th, they were shut out. April 22nd, he won. Game was 4-1. He got the win. Next, April 28th, 1 run. May 3rd, 0. May 9th, 0. That's been his run support. It's been horrendous. And that's why he's 1-5. He's pitched decently enough, but they don't score when he's on the mound. Now, his last outing against the Philly, we talked about how Philly was laying the wood to teams this week, and they started off this week by laying the wood to Chris Flexen, putting up 6 earned runs, 9 hits, 2 home runs in 5 innings. And that was really his first bad outing. But, again, Philly, after seeing what they did against the Dodgers, it's like, okay, we get it. So with Flexen, it's because he gets absolutely no run support. The team itself is slightly below average, but the 2 matchups he faced are below average offenses. So it's like a deeper league to start. I don't mind taking the chance. I'm not terribly confident this isn't a primary or a secondary or maybe not even a tertiary target for me. But if you're limited in options, I don't mind taking the chance on it this week.
I don't think I would, man. He's given up a ton of hard contact this year. He is hitting the ball on the ground less and in the air more. Boston doesn't scare me as much as Toronto does, but that Toronto matchup, I feel like that could be another 6 earned run outing. And I think it's time to move on from my boy Chris Flexen. Like you said, in 15-team leagues, you may not have a better option, but
right.
I don't know that
he should be in your list of waterfall bids, right? You look at you didn't get this guy. Take a chance. I'm gonna say, like I said, he should be in the possibilities. There are some guys on this list that we've already talked about that I'm like, Bradish, no. Brieske, no. Logue, I was a no. There were some other guys that I'm gonna be like, absolutely no. I'm not ruling out Flexen.
Here's a guy that I kind of like potentially long term, but is definitely a no this week for me. Taylor Hearn versus the Angels and then at Houston.
There you go. That's why he's probably the worst option this week because that is not. Neither of those are good matchups, and having to go to Houston. And Hearn, I want to say Hearn has already faced the Astros once. It actually did kind of well. I know I have him in one of my leagues and use him, but I like Hearn long term. But this is the week to go 2-stepping with him. He did face Houston, and he took the loss. I'm sorry, 5 innings, 4 runs, and a home run. But this is not the week to go 2-stepping with him.
He's pitched really well in his last 2 major league outings, including his last outing against Kansas City, where he allowed no earned runs in 5 innings, 3 walks, 1 hit, 5 strikeouts. I do like him. I think he's really interesting, kind of sneaky pickup maybe for later on in the season, but there's no way you can start him against these 2 offenses and not expect to just get completely destroyed. So that's a no-go on that for Hearn. Taijuan Walker, home versus St. Louis and then at Colorado.
Nope. There you go. Nope. St. Louis, good offense. At Colorado, no, thank you.
Yep. Old friend Aaron Sanchez at Miami And then at Milwaukee, for those who don't know, Aaron Sanchez is pitching for the Nationals.
I put him in like the Chris Flexen of a because his run support his run support is at 165 based off what we discussed earlier. And the Nationals do provide a lot of run support for their starting pitchers. I mean, 4.6 runs a game for their starters. And the two matchups are a 4-2 and a 4-8 as far as team offense. So it's kind of a wash. So, again, down in those waterfall bids, if you're looking for something, he's a maybe. Again, not somebody I'm targeting. The Nationals are struggling. Their bullpen has certainly not helped them. And your boy Patrick Corbin certainly has not helped them. But overall, it's a matter of what offense is going to show up. I'm still struggling to understand how Juan Soto is like 2 for the season with runners in scoring position, and he's got 1 non-solo home run, I believe it is. So it's a really weird how they're producing runs, even though Juan Soto is dead. Nelson Cruz is still in a slumber. But it's kind of a maybe. I can't really dismiss it out of hand like I did some of these others.
He's had just a rough start to the schedule for him. He started with back-to-back starts against the Giants, then at Colorado, and then home versus the Mets. So
that hurts.
He does have a 7 ERA, but his xFIP is 4.12. This is like a Hail Mary type plays, like deepest of deep leagues. But if you're in that situation, like there's going to be some NL onlys where he's sitting out on the wire. Might want to take that gamble because Miami's offense isn't great. Milwaukee's offense doesn't scare me either. So,
right.
All right. Wade Miley versus Pittsburgh versus Arizona. Any interest in Wade Miley, old friend?
I kind of put him. I mean, he looked awful. He's only pitched the one game and really struggled. But man, at Pittsburgh, it's tough. It's tough to say. Oh, he's just at Pittsburgh and at Arizona, which we've said has had their problems. Both teams are below average overall offensively.
He's home versus both those. It's in Wrigley for both.
I'm kind of he's in the realm of possibility. If I'm desperate and I need something, let's say I lost Luzardo. I'm just trying to think through it. Like I would consider him in a form. I'm in an 18-team mixed league. I'll tell you, he'll be in my waterfall bids this weekend.
I just can't do it. Like I know it's a great matchup versus Pittsburgh, but Arizona's actually played pretty well this year. Every team in the NL West above 500. He looks so bad in that first start. And I mean, I just don't know how many innings you're even going to get at him if you're going to be able to qualify for a win in both of those starts. I'm staying away from Wade Miley. I'm not going to play with that one. What about Connor Overton? He is staying in the rotation for right now. Vladimir Gutierrez moving to the bullpen. He is at Cleveland and at Toronto.
No thanks. Cincinnati does not provide a lot of run support at all, and the matchups we've already talked about. Cleveland, that makes it tough. Sorry, my dog is having a nightmare or something here. Louie, stop. And so that's where it comes down to me. It's like, no, I mean, the Cleveland start's tough enough, but it's not like the other matchups any better. So overall, no thanks.
Yeah, while he has a 1.59 ERA, his xERA is 4.91. And he is striking out batters at a 4.24 K per 9 rate right now. No thanks on Connor Overton, especially against these two offenses. Bryse Wilson at Chicago for the Cubs and home versus St. Louis. Any interest there?
Like I said earlier, 1 win on the entire season for the Pittsburgh staff. 1. He is, and the thing is, Wilson's the guy to get in the run support. He's got a 211 support plus. But overall, they don't score a lot of runs, and both of these teams are above average offensively in runs per game. So I'm out on Wilson this week.
I agree. Miles Mikolas, who's been one of the surprises of the early season, at the Mets and then at Pittsburgh.
Yes. Don't like he is number 3 on the list of starts for me this week behind Kikuchi and Odorizzi, but I do like Mikolas. because these are decent matchups relative to the run support that St. Louis provides their starting pitchers. And so, yes, I'm going to take a chance on that two-step with Mikolas this week.
I am as well. What about teammate Steven Matz, who you hate?
This will shock you. I will also say yes on Matz, but behind Mikolas, behind the others. Because, again, the run support is there, like it was for Matz. Now, understand last year I hated him because he had a ton of run support, and that's where a lot of the wins. This year that run support is normalized, and his numbers have been bad. And I've tweeted out a couple of times where I'm like, good God, I didn't like him, but I really didn't think he'd be this bad. But this week in this type of two-start, you got to take another chance. And maybe if he stinks again, you're out, you're done, you move on with it. But I'll take a chance on both St. Louis pitchers this week.
I will as well. I sat Matz this last week because he was supposed to pitch against my Giants again, and I was afraid he was going to get blown up, and they ended up switching his start with Jordan Hicks, so then he went up against the Orioles. So a little bummed about that, but he didn't have a great start either way against the Orioles. But last but not least, Madison Bumgarner at the Dodgers and then at Chicago. Some people are probably going to ask, why is Bumgarner on this list? Bumgarner was under 50% rostered in CBS leagues, which kind of caters to 12 teamers, so it's usually a pretty decent barometer for the average league. Bumgarner's pitched well this year. Any interest in Bumgarner at the Dodgers and then at Chicago?
No, not this week. He's received poor run support himself. The team overall has given their starters poor run support, and he's got 2 above average matchups for team offense. So I'm out on Bumgarner this week. I have him in a league, and I'm benching him.
I think it's hard to bench him in a 15-team league, but I agree with you. In a 10 and a 12, I would probably bench him. Bumgarner's looked good. This is not he's not getting strikeouts. He's not a strikeout guy, especially at this point in his career. But the thing that has ailed him in the past has been command within the zone.
Yeah.
And in the starts that I've watched, and I've watched a few of them so far, he's actually looked a lot more like a vintage version of himself. I don't think he's going to turn back into that, obviously, but he's looked a lot better at the commanding things within the zone. So I actually have Bumgarner in a number of leagues this year, and I'm continuing to just kind of use him as a team streamer. He's not an every start guy for me, but he is picking matchups here and there. So that is going to do it for our 2 starts. I will put that doc that Jason made into the show notes so people can go check it out. It's great work. Jason, remind everybody where you reached and what you're working on.
So the Collect Calls column at RotoWire every week. This week's theme was this Support Plus number I've been playing with, just to remind people that all run support is not created equally. So I showcase here's the top 20, here's the bottom 20, here's the entire table. The table that Justin's sharing is just these pitchers that we've discussed today. But it's just something I'm trying to keep encouraging folks. And you can find these metrics, by the way. These aren't secret. If you go into Baseball Reference, go to pitching, go to the starting pitching area, look on that page, you will see RS/IP. That's what I'm talking about. And they've got it by team, and they've got it by pitcher. And if you have some rudimentary Excel skills, you can download both Excel tabs, use the X lookup feature. And if all of this is going right over your head, just reach out to me on Twitter. I'm happy to connect with you and show you how to do it. X lookup's an awesome function in Excel that allows you to do this. So I just put them in the same thing and go boom to boom and go through there, and that goes with. And I just see a question came in from Joel before we close. What's up, dude? Let's see. We got Herman Marquez or Mad Bum this week. Who do you go with? Well, I already said no on Bumgarner, so I'm out there. Marquez, I cut in one of my leagues last week.
Marquez is Giants and Mets at home.
Out. Do I have to go? No. Do I have to go with one of them? If I'm going with one of them, I'll say Bumgarner. But yeah,
if you have to go with one, you're going with Bumgarner. I didn't even put him on the list. I don't even know if it's a 2-start, but it might just be a 1-start for Marquez. But this is why I do not like rostering Rockies pitchers, because
it's like Paul said. You guys said a couple weeks ago. There was I can even tell you exactly where I was on the road when I was driving. There was a sentence like Marquez. I'm totally out on him. It's like. I'm done. It's like he stinks at home. He stinks on the road. Whatever. I'm moving on. I'm done. And I was on my way to a doctor's appointment. I can see exactly where I was, but I was like, that night I was like, okay, doing my bids. All right, Marquez, you're out. Because I had taken him in 17th, 18th round in a couple, but I hadn't used him in 2 weeks. And I looked and I was like, yeah, I don't like what's coming up. He's out.
Yeah, so he is home versus the Mets on Friday is what it looks like. No thanks. Just not playing that game at all. Senzatella is the 2 start for the Rockies this week against the Giants and the Mets. Definitely make sure he's out of your lineup if for some reason he's on any of your rosters. You can reach me on Twitter at Justin Mason FWFB. Obviously, you can reach Jason on Twitter at Jason Collette. I'm writing daily over at Fangraphs. Do the Friends of Fantasy Benefits podcast and TGFBI podcast as well. Sign up for our Patreon. That's where you get access to every single live stream that we do as we're doing it. Every once in a while, like today, I forgot to make it private on YouTube. So if you follow me over on YouTube, sometimes randomly they appear live over there. Otherwise, they're in their entirety after we're done recording. And we also do things like watch parties. We're going to do a live Q&A here pretty soon in the Patreon. So definitely go check all that out. And I'll talk to Paul this week. Ranks updates. We're going to do an in-season ranks updates here pretty soon, available for those Patreon subscribers. So for Jason and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.
See ya.